everyone.
CNN Today with Lou Waters and Natalie Allen. Weekdays on CNN.
Out of Yugoslavia, the latest on today's release of these prisoners of war. Despite Belgrade's gesture of goodwill, NATO is not letting up as Operation Allied Force enters its 40th day and the refugee crisis. The view from the Albanian border. It is 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 12 noon in the West, and today is Sunday, May 2nd, and live from Atlanta headquarters, this is CNN Today. Hello, I'm Donna Kelly. We're glad you could join us. It's been a whirlwind day for 3 U.S. soldiers free at last, but NATO says war is war. Here are the latest developments as Day 40 begins in the strike against Yugoslavia. 32 days after their capture by Serbian forces, 3 U.S. servicemen are in Germany, where Army doctors say they're doing fine with only minor injuries. The soldiers will undergo more testing over the next couple of days. They arrived at Ramstein Air Base about 4 hours ago, just hours after Belgrade handed over the men to Jesse Jackson. NATO and the United States say that despite the gesture, the bombing will intensify until Belgrade fully commits to peace in Kosovo. Doctors who examined them say that 2 of the former POWs lost weight while in captivity. Not unusual, though, considering what they've been through, and we'll be checking in to see how their condition is in just a few moments. For Staff Sergeants Andrew Ramirez and Christopher Stone and Specialist Stephen Gonzalez, the geography certainly changed rapidly from captivity in Belgrade to Croatia to Germany in just a matter of hours. As you can well imagine, their families are anxious to see them, waiting to get word. Let's check in with Mike Betcher. He joins us from Huntsville, Texas, where the Gonzalez family lives. Mike?
Well, within about 45 minutes, the Gonzalez family will lift off from DFW Airport and be on their way to Frankfurt for that reunion with their son. They spoke to their son at 1 o'clock this morning after he crossed over the border from Yugoslavia into Croatia. He told them he's doing fine and he's looking forward to seeing them. Now, Mrs. Gonzalez said as late as yesterday, she could not believe that she would have the chance to actually see her son so soon.
We're just so excited. It's unbelievable. I think the feeling is just unbelievable. It's something we were hoping so bad for and so much for that it's almost hard to believe that it's come true.
Reporters asked her, what do you plan to do when you see your son? She said, I'm going to look him in the eyes and I'm going to hold him. Mike Betcher, CNN, reporting live from Huntsville, Texas.
All right, Mike, thanks very much. Next, we go to Baldwin Park, California, where CNN's Jennifer Arthur is with the family of Andrew Ramirez. Jennifer?
Well, Donna, the word from Baldwin Park, California is that Vivian Ramirez says she's going to hug her son and she's not going to let go. There's a sense of excitement and elation here in the air. We're told through a sister of the former POW Ramirez that the family has been monitoring the developments overseas, watching television well into the night. It's the kind of sleeplessness that they've been hoping for. The Ramirez family was encouraged, they say, by what they saw on television, specifically the words that they heard from Staff Sergeant Andrew Ramirez Jr. when he said that he is happy, he cannot wait to see his family. He said that he relied on God to get him through these past just over a month in captivity. They were also really, really encouraged, they say, by the way that he looked. And I spoke earlier with Nadine Ramirez, that is the soldier's brother, and she said that as far as her mother is concerned, that beyond hugging him when she sees him, that probably the phone call she got just after his release was the best thing she could have hoped for since this ordeal began.
No, I'm packing. I'm packing. Are you meeting with the other families of the other members? Over there we will. Over there in Germany we will be meeting. And I could imagine how they are today. I've called all my families. I've called everybody in town that I talked to him, and it's right.
Now, the soldier's sister, Nadine, also tells us that she is packed, her mother is packed, they are ready to go. She's been saying all along that they're waiting for details from the military as to just how and when they'll be headed for Germany. We understand now that they know the details, but they don't choose to share it with us here standing outside of the house right now. Donna?
All right, Jennifer, thanks. And now to Port Huron, Michigan, where CNN's Ed Garston joins us from Christopher Stone's family home. Ed?
Well, Donna, the first celebration is already underway. Behind me, the local VFW post is staging what it's calling a victory rally. Within the next few minutes, they're going to be releasing a whole bunch of yellow balloons out over the St. Mary's River, which flows into Lake Huron, which is just a few hundred yards north of here. About 3 hours ago, Christopher Stone's dad and stepmom, Jim and Edith Stone, left here for Detroit for a 6:15 Eastern Time flight to Germany, along with Chris Stone's two sisters. We did have an opportunity to sit down with Jim and Edith Stone, and they told us that they owe Chris a lot of hugs and kisses on behalf of a lot of people, and they certainly wanted to extend their thanks to a lot of people as well.
We are extremely grateful to Reverend Jackson and the members of his delegation, and we know lots of people from President Secretary Cohen and military officials and countless others have worked long and hard to make this day possible. Every member of the Stone family is filled with thanks to the people of our community and the nation who prayed for all of us and all their soldiers.
It'll be a joyous reunion indeed. Jim and Edith Stone tell us they have not seen Chris in 3.5 years, although he lives in San Antonio, Texas with his wife Tricia. They hope to get him on up here to visit with the family members that live in Michigan. Ed Garston, CNN, reporting live from Port Huron, Michigan.
Ed, thanks. And as we told you, the 3 U.S. soldiers are released. They are in Germany right now. They're undergoing medical checks and debriefing. And CNN's Matthew Chance is in Germany, and he joins us from where the men are hospitalized. Matthew?
Well, Donna, after more than 30 nights of captivity, this is the first evening of freedom for those 3 U.S. servicemen, and they're spending it here in this building right behind me with those 50 flags of the American states lit up outside here in Langstuhl in Germany. They are receiving medical attention, but at the moment, military officials here are telling us there are no serious concerns about their physical condition.
We're doing an examination from head to toe, basically, and that will be proceeding over the next day or so. And right now they're eating. A couple of them are eating cheeseburgers, a couple of them are eating chicken and rice, and one of them wanted lasagna, and that's what we got for them. So they're doing fine.
Now, the releases would not have been possible were it not for the intensive diplomatic efforts of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. He came under a great deal of criticism for visiting Belgrade, for meeting with the Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic. He says that now he hopes that the meeting may encourage peace in the country, or at least dialogue.
I hope our moral appeal will have some impact upon moving toward a bridge and not just toward more violence on both sides. And I'm not even making a moral equivalent. I'm simply saying if we want to end the war, we got to talk it out and not just fight it out.
Now, the debriefing that these 3 U.S. servicemen are likely to undergo over the coming days with senior military officials here is a source of most interest right now, to find out exactly why it is that these troops on a routine patrol apparently in northern Macedonia fell into the hands of the Yugoslav armed forces. Now, NATO and the US have said that they believe that forces loyal to the Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic intercepted this patrol on Macedonian soil. Yugoslavia has, of course, denied this, saying this patrol had ventured onto Yugoslavian soil. Donna?
All right, Matthew Chance, thanks very much for that report from Germany. And still to come on CNN Sunday, NATO works to cut off Serbia's lines of communication. An update on the military offensive when CNN Sunday continues.
PricewaterhouseCoopers, we're working with pharmaceutical companies to create new research and development strategies that will help them bring medicines to market in less time at less cost. Because realize every day a new drug is delayed can be the difference between just too late and just in time. PricewaterhouseCoopers. Join us. Together we can change the world.
Here in America, home means different things to different people. But we're pretty much agreed on what it means to own a home. It has something to do with stronger communities, safer streets, better schools, and the hopes and dreams that America was built on. So whatever home means, one thing's certain, it's a lot more than just four walls and a roof. For a free guide that can help you on the path to home ownership, call the Fannie Mae Foundation.
Say, did you hear about the English ivy that died from a bad case of shot hole fungus? No, I didn't. Apparently it couldn't handle its difetamid.
For those of you who actually have a life outside of gardening, there's Garden.com. With tons of plants, expert advice, and home delivery, we can help anyone have a great garden. Now you don't need a green thumb, just an index finger.
Crisis in the Balkans, an ethnic conflict centuries old, an ancient battle fought with the weapons of a modern age, and with the most tragic of results. For a clear understanding of the issues, for unsurpassed live coverage from the region, and for insightful reporting by television's most respected team of correspondents, the world turns to CNN. From exclusive special reports examining the latest events to live breaking news throughout the day, stay with CNN.
Welcome back to CNN Sunday. President Clinton is tempering his delight over the release of the 3 U.S. soldiers with a resolve to continue the bombing campaign. For the latest, we're joined by CNN's Chris Black, and she's at the White House. Chris?
Donna, President Clinton and Vice President Al Gore will meet tomorrow here at the White House with Russia's special envoy to Yugoslavia, Viktor Chernomyrdin. This meeting was hastily arranged earlier today during a telephone conversation between Russia President Boris Yeltsin and Mr. Clinton. The Russian president initiated the call, which came just as the 3 American soldiers were making their way to freedom in Germany. Both Jesse Jackson, the Russians, and the Yugoslav government are trying to use the liberation of the 3 POWs to put pressure on Mr. Clinton to seek a diplomatic solution to the Kosovo crisis. But administration officials are saying that NATO intends to stay the course.
We are not only not going to stop the bombing, we're going to intensify the bombing. We have carried this campaign on for some 40 days, but I would point out only 5 of those days have been unrestricted by weather. And so we have been remarkably successful in carrying out this campaign with little loss to our own pilots under great hazardous conditions and great concern for killing innocent civilians. Unfortunately, that takes place from time to time, but we've made every effort to minimize those risks. But we are going to intensify this campaign. The NATO summit that was recently completed was very solid and unanimous on this. We have to carry this campaign to its conclusion.
Mr. Clinton said that he was pleased that the 3 soldiers were safe and free, and he thanked Reverend Jesse Jackson both publicly and privately for his role in securing their freedom. But Mr. Clinton said that this is not about 3 American soldiers, but about the ethnic Albanians in Kosovo. And in a statement, he said, as we welcome our soldiers home, our thoughts also turn to the over 1 million Kosovars who are unable to go home because of the policies of the regime in Belgrade. He said, today we reaffirm our resolve to persevere until they, too, can return with security and self-government. Mr. Clinton will be flying to Brussels on Tuesday to meet with NATO officials before making his way to military bases in Germany. White House officials say that the president is very hopeful that he will get to meet with those 3 Army men who have just made their way to freedom after 32 days in captivity. Chris Black, CNN, reporting live from the White House.
All right, Chris, thank you. NATO says that its bombing raids have severely crippled Yugoslavia's air defenses, but the risk of encountering anti-aircraft fire and missiles remains very real. NATO acknowledges that it has lost 4 aircraft since airstrikes against Yugoslavia began on March 24th. CNN's Patricia Kelly has more.
Within the course of 12 hours, NATO lost 2 warplanes, both from the United States, both downed by engine failure. State-controlled Yugoslav television showed video of what it claims is the wreckage of an F-16. NATO confirms an F-16 crashed in the early hours of Sunday in northwest Serbia. The Yugoslav military claims it shot the plane down.
We, of course, are interested in what caused the engine failure. We are still reviewing this incident. It will be difficult because we don't have the wreckage.
NATO says the pilot ejected and was rescued by NATO forces within 2 hours.
I would like to salute the professionalism and the efficiency of that combat search and rescue team that, for the second time since Operation Allied Force began, managed to rescue a downed pilot.
In the other incident, a U.S. Harrier jump jet returning to its carrier, the USS Kearsarge, crashed into the Adriatic.
This aircraft was not assigned to NATO, but was supporting NATO's operation.
The pilot was picked up after just 5 minutes in the water. The Kearsarge, with a U.S. Marine Expeditionary Unit on board, is assigned to the U.S. Sixth Fleet for the Kosovo crisis.
As we increase the intensity of our air operations 24 hours a day, so the greater the risk, obviously, to our pilots as well.
NATO says it is concentrating on taking out Yugoslav military and equipment operating in the field in Kosovo.
By attacking fielded forces and their support systems, we seek to make it incredibly difficult for anyone to get into Kosovo and almost impossible to move around and operate within Kosovo.
Among the weekend's targets, more than a dozen bridges, although alliance officials apologize for hitting a civilian bus on the Lujani Bridge in Kosovo. NATO says it was an accident.
We did not bomb the bus and we did not target the bus. The bus crossed on the bridge but was not seen by the pilot, whose attention was focused on his aim point during weapon trajectory. There was no intent to harm civilians, and any loss of innocent life is regretted.
The release of 3 U.S. soldiers taken prisoner by Yugoslav military a month ago makes no difference to NATO policy, say officials in Brussels. Airstrikes.
We interrupt that report to take you quickly to California, to Baldwin Park. This is Andrew Ramirez's mother, Vivian.
I'm really excited. I'm shaky and warm at the same time. I could hardly wait to get over there. I could hardly wait.
When are you going? What are the details of your travel?
I'm on a flight.
I know.
On my own flight. Oh, yeah.
When are you gonna, yeah, you're probably there now. But
Yes.
I mean, when are you getting on a plane?
I'm not supposed to stay.
How long will you be gone? How long will you be gone?
What?
Who are you grateful for making this happen?
What? Jesse Jackson.
What do you plan to do when you
For
see
him.
your son?
I'm just gonna hold him, hug him, squeeze him, and talk to him, of course.
Do you have any
Just stay with
details
him.
about him being able to come back with you, or do you stay
I
there for a
haven't.
while?
No, they haven't told me anything yet, but I'm more than positive that he will be coming home for at least a leave.
How long will there be in Germany?
I really don't know. I really don't know. It all depends.
What are you bringing with you? Any presents for him?
I'm taking him his in and out. Double, is it? Yeah. I already got it in the car for you.
You know the coming?
No.
Surprise?
Yeah, it's gonna be a surprise. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We gotta go.
Oh. I've never been to Europe. It'll be my first time.
Want to be nice.
First time she's to Europe, she's saying there.
I really don't know. I don't know how this is hit. What's the first thing you're going to do? Oh, I'm just going to hug him. Squeeze him, hug him, talk to him.
Vivian Ramirez, who is the mother of Andrew Ramirez, who's 24, of Los Angeles, one of the 3 soldiers being freed, who's in Belgrade, said she couldn't say when she's getting on the plane. She wasn't supposed to. She was thankful to Jesse Jackson, but she's getting ready to make the trip over. Says she's excited and shaky and warm, and she can hardly wait to get over there to see him, and then she will hug him and hold him and squeeze him and talk to him. And we'll keep you posted on any of the other family reaction we get. And for now, let's get the latest, though, from Belgrade with our Brent Sadler, who joins us by phone. Brent?
Thanks, Donna. Within hours of the Reverend Jesse Jackson leaving Belgrade with the 3 released American soldiers, air raid sirens were again heard in the capital after one of the quietest nights in recent times around the city. But there are no current reports of NATO air activity here at this hour. But in Kosovo, where NATO admits it accidentally hit a passenger bus crossing a bridge, NATO said its most recent attacks were intense. The destroyed bus was traveling from the southern Serbian city of Niš to Kosovo's capital, Pristina, when it took a direct hit. The vehicle was split in 2 by the blast. Half of it plunged 30 feet, with many of the occupants reportedly on board. NATO says the pilot fired a missile before the bus drove onto the bridge at Lujane, some 12 miles north of Pristina. There was heavy loss of life, according to both Yugoslav officials and international journalists taken to the scene. In the latest overnight attacks, Belgrade was spared the bombing, but NATO kept up the pressure on targets around the northern city of Novi Sad, again hitting its important oil refinery, igniting huge fires in Yugoslavia's second largest city. Meanwhile, in western Serbia, there were differing accounts of the downing of an American F-16 fighter. The Yugoslav military claimed it fell victim to their air defenses. NATO confirms the loss of the plane, but the Pentagon says it's still investigating the crash. Debris included the remains of the engine and 2 unused missiles. The pilot ejected safely from his stricken plane and was picked up by a combat search and rescue team in less than 2 hours, U.S. officials say. As NATO steps up the air campaign, it'll mean that more warplanes and more pilots will be sent into action, whatever the risks. Donna.
Brent, as you bring us up to date on what's happened militarily, can you tell us what the reaction might have been from people on the streets or even other government officials to releasing the 3 U.S. soldiers?
Well, in terms of emotion, Donna, none whatsoever here. The news was a reader on Serbian television here. We've seen no pictures reported of the handover or indeed the arrivals in neighboring Croatia or Germany. So it's just being reported straight here. However, a Yugoslav foreign ministry official did say in a news conference a couple of hours after the release that Yugoslavia was looking for some sort of reciprocal diplomatic gesture from the West.
All right, Brent Sadler in Belgrade, thanks very much. And a reminder to you, CNN's reporting from Yugoslavia is subject to restrictions set by Yugoslav authorities. CNN must seek permission to videotape news events, and unrestricted travel outside Belgrade is not permitted. Just ahead for you on CNN Sunday, we will update our top stories, and we'll go live to Albania's border with Kosovo, where refugees are fleeing in droves. And we'll take a closer look at the troubled land of Montenegro, where the Balkans conflict is putting people at odds with their heritage.
She's growing up 1,000 miles away from her grandparents, 1,000 miles from the way you grew up. But now her time with them can be unlimited. With Sprint, switch now. Call toll-free 1-877-4-WEEKENDS. You'll get unlimited weekend calling for your first 2 months and 1,000 weekend minutes every month after that for just $25 a month, which can close the gap in a heartbeat. Is there any better way to spend $25? Even weekdays are just $0.10 a minute. Call Sprint now for 1,000 reasons. 2 months of unlimited weekend calls and 1,000 weekend minutes every month after that, even on calls to your Sprint 800 number. And only $0.10 a minute on weekdays, which can make 1,000 miles disappear. Isn't that the point of contact? Call toll-free 1-877-4-WEEKENDS now or visit us at Sprint.com.
Among the targets in last evening's NATO air raids was a radio tower in Montenegro. Montenegro is a Yugoslav republic, and it's in a difficult position, trying to balance its pro-Western views with those of its sister republic, Serbia. CNN's Mike Hanna files this report.
In the town of Cetinje, the church where Montenegro's last king lies buried, King Nikola Petrovic was toppled from his throne in 1918, and despite a lengthy and bitter war with Serbia, Montenegro lost its independence.
In the 1920s, Montenegrins fought hard to keep their independence. Now in 1999, we have renewed the struggle to get our independence back.
Part of the struggle, the refusal of young men in Cetinje to serve in the Yugoslav army, which is controlled by Montenegro's fellow republic in the Yugoslav Federation, Serbia. And we are told Yugoslavian military police who came to arrest draft dodgers were persuaded to leave the town. How is not made clear.
Neighbors, friends, and relatives asked military police not to mobilize people by force. And after that, the military police left Cetinje, and they have not returned.
But underlying the air of calm in these peaceful streets, the knowledge that the military will return, that Serbia will not allow its smaller Yugoslav partner to continue to remain neutral in the war, or indeed to break away from the Yugoslav Federation and declare its independence.
I'm not for war solution, but if that's the way it has to be, let it be. I'm for that.
In Cetinje, there are many reminders of Montenegrins who lost their lives in war. The statue commemorates young adventurers whose troop ship sank while they were returning from abroad to help Serbia resist an outside force. Montenegro fought with Serbia against the Ottoman Empire in the 15th century. Thousands of its men died helping protect Serbia against an Austrian invasion in 1916. There's a bitter old joke that has new currency here. It says Serbia will always fight until the last Montenegrin dies. Mike Hanna, CNN, Cetinje, Yugoslavia.
And more of the human dimension of the Balkan crisis. Relief officials say that ethnic Albanian refugees still continue to pour out of Kosovo and into neighboring Balkan republics. 5,000 arrived overnight in Macedonia. An estimated 80,000 refugees are now squeezed into hopelessly overcrowded camps. CNN's Tom Mintier with our report.
The refugee camps in Macedonia are full. Newcomers find a piece of plastic is just about all they have to call home now. 43-year-old Hairez Ahmedi and his family escaped with what they could carry. Serb police and paramilitary took everything else. The paramilitary took all the money and papers from the people, then they beat them, he says. At the Trugani refugee camp set up by CARE International, there is no space not being used. All day and all night, they come here.
They've been traumatized. They come on buses at night. They're trucked in here, and they're put in tents with a whole lot of people who they may not know.
In the past 24 hours, there were 26 buses with 4,200 people and nowhere to put nearly half of them. The Macedonian government has approved expansion of this camp. Heavy equipment is currently preparing the ground. Macedonia's prime minister toured the camp on Sunday. He says his government is providing the manpower and equipment, but nobody has paid for it yet.
Unfortunately, from the High Commissioner, we have not received even $1. I assume one day it will arrive.
This man also toured the camp, but few knew who he was. American actor Richard Gere. He was here on a private visit to learn of the plight of the refugees.
I came here for the people. I didn't come here for politics. And this is where the suffering is these people.
Gere said he wanted to spend the night in the camp with the refugees. That was not allowed. What people need here most are the basic things. Baby food, soap, and shampoo are being handed out to women with small children. Milk is supplied to those with infants younger than 8 months. Bottled water is being trucked in by the German army. In a camp with nearly 20,000 people, it is replenished daily. Getting in touch with relatives outside the Balkans is a service being provided free by this German phone company. Letting loved ones know you are all right is well worth the 4-hour wait in line. The United States will begin the airlift of 20,000 refugees to America on Tuesday with a flight of 400. It is a drop in the bucket when you consider how many arrive each day, but the move may prompt other nations to act sooner rather than later. Tom Mintier, CNN at the Trugani refugee camp in Macedonia.
And we are coming up to 28 minutes after the hour. Let's get a check of the weather with Jill Brown. Jill?
All right, thanks, Donna. We have the threat of severe thunderstorms this afternoon. As a matter of fact, we have a few thunderstorms starting to fire up around San Antonio, and we'll check that radar right off the bat here. You can see these really now building up. We've had a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings here, and it looks like some rain also farther to the north up around the Dallas area, but this seems to be the most intense area. That's where we have the highest amount of moisture in the atmosphere. We may have isolated tornadoes through the afternoon. So far, no watches in effect, but that's something that will probably come with time, so we'll keep an eye out for it. It's all along and ahead of this trough of low pressure, the old front that kind of has died away, but that's where the highest instability is, highest threat of severe thunderstorms. Otherwise, we have rain and mountain snow. Snow advisories are in effect for the Cascades of Washington and Oregon, about 3 to 5 inches. Nope, not too late in the season for that yet. And in the east, well, we're back to dry weather and actually mild weather. Looks like a good few days ahead, but dry days for the east. We'll keep you up to date on the threat of severe weather. Now back to Donna.
Thanks, Jill. In Colorado, crosses in memory of the Columbine shooting victims no longer stand, and we'll hear why in a live report from Littleton straight ahead.
Tonight, they're the powerful stories that have connected us to each other.
It's one small step for man,
The images we can never forget. The people whose lives changed our world.
not what your country can do for you.
The triumphs, the tragedies,
All the humanity, all the bad
the faces, places, and greatest events of the last 100 years. Celebrate the Century, premiering tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.